Ready?
Let's do it.
Jonathan Majors, Hollywood actor.
Why did you decide you wanted to talk now?
Now his first interview anywhere since being convicted of assaulting his ex-girlfriend.
Your reaction to that verdict?
What does he now want you to know? The emotional exclusive.
It's been hard. I'm sorry.
Breaks this Monday morning.
You think you'll ever work in Hollywood again?
On ABC's Good Morning America.
So as you just saw, Jonathan Majors is going to be doing an interview with Good Morning America this upcoming Monday. That will be January 8th, which is tomorrow. And apparently he's going to be talking about everything from being arrested to going to court, being found guilty of assaulting his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabarri, to getting fired by Marvel Studios. This is all apparently coming out in this interview that is being conducted by Good Morning America, which is very, very interesting because Marvel/Disney are the ones who fired him, yet Disney owns Good Morning America. Disney is the parent company of ABC News and Good Morning America. So it's very interesting that they would fire Jonathan Majors, but then allow him to have his own segment on Good Morning America, his own interview, talking about everything that happened. Now, of course, we're talking about this because it ties into him being Kang the Conqueror, or at least he was Kang the Conqueror. Now, obviously he's not. Marvel Studios has fired him, but one of the biggest questions that people have been asking since he was found guilty and since he was fired by Marvel is, what if he appeals? What if he appeals, which he most likely is going to, and what if he wins? What if he appeals and brings up some specific points or errors that might have occurred in the trial, and it turns around, they decide he's not guilty, that he didn't assault his ex-girlfriend Grace Jabarri, or, and I've even heard one lawyer state this, that if he did indeed hurt her in trying to retrieve his phone in New York, that's actually, according to this lawyer, under law allowed because she took his property and he is allowed to use forces to get that back. Full disclosure, I am not an attorney. This is something I saw an attorney say on the news. The point of mentioning that is there are things that they could bring up in this appeal to try and get the court's decision to be reversed and find him not guilty. So what happens then? Does Marvel take him back? Does Marvel rehire him? They have done this before. James Gunn is the biggest example. They fired him, but then they took him back and he went on to continue to direct and write Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So Marvel has done it before. Who's to say they can't do it again? And what's interesting is this interview is really painting him out to be a victim here. In the clip, the interviewer says, "Why did you decide to speak out now?" And the narrator states that it's his first interview after being convicted of assaulting his ex-girlfriend. But then the narrator says, what does he now want you to know? And they call it an emotional exclusive interview. And of course, this is put on by his PR team, right? This is a part of the plan. They are trying to essentially do anything and probably everything they can do to save his career. Before he was even found guilty, he had been dropped by his management company, his PR company, he lost commercial deals, and ultimately he went on to be fired by Marvel Studios. So obviously the trajectory here of his career is that it is going away, that this is the end of his career. So this is definitely put on by his PR team to try and salvage anything that they possibly can and tell his side of the story, because he never testified in court. He never said anything. He didn't take the stand, not one time. So now they're basically stating that he's going to tell us his side of the story. And what is the purpose of this? Well, like I mentioned, it's to salvage his career. And I wouldn't be surprised if he actually announces in this interview that he is going to appeal. But this segment, this interview is most likely to try and get the public's opinion kind of back to favor him again. He's most likely going to talk about how his career has essentially been ruined because of this. Now, the last question that the interviewer asks is, do you think you'll ever work in Hollywood again? Which, of course, we know he wants to. He was in the prime of his career when this all happened, playing the big bad of the multiverse saga of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for Marvel Studios. That's huge. Creed 3 was huge for him. He was an Emmy nominee for Lovecraft Country for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series. He was a nominee for the 2023 NAACP for Devotion. His career was skyrocketing before all of this went down in March. So really, this is going to be kind of his plea, I believe, to Hollywood to hear his side of the story so he could eventually go back and work as an actor again. This is clearly his passion. This is clearly what he has devoted his life to. So it makes sense that his PR team would do this. But again, the only thing that doesn't really make sense here is that ABC, Good Morning America, is owned by Disney. So Disney is essentially giving him a shot at this, a shot at trying to kind of get the public on his side. Despite the fact that they fired him, they're still trying to give him a shot at explaining his side of the story. And of course, his reaction to the trial and the arrest and everything. Because again, since he got arrested, we really haven't heard anything from him. It's all come from his legal team. His lawyer was the one that continued to state that he was actually the victim in this, but he himself hasn't really spoken up. So as advertised in this Good Morning America clip, this is really going to be the first time that he's spoken up about this entire situation kind of since it's happened. And what's interesting is I've heard a few people already mention this online, that this could be really a part of Disney's plan so they could ultimately go on later down the road to recast him as Kang the Conqueror. There have been a lot of reports recently stating that Marvel Studios is looking to recast Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror, which is obviously true. But we've heard a lot of reports recently that state that Marvel Studios has actors in mind who they want to play and could have already possibly met with them. But Justin Kroll from Deadline tweeted this a couple of days ago on January 5th. He said, "See a lot of who will play Kang next, and here is a top contender for Kang comments this week. And all I'll say is this. Don't expect that news anytime soon. There will be plenty of Marvel breaks in the coming weeks on various fronts, but don't hold your breath on that one." He continued to state, "This isn't dismissing any rumor this week about potential contenders for the role. I don't have any intel on those being true or not true. Just letting you know. If I were betting what gets announced first, Kang or the Field, I'd put money on the Field." So this week it was announced that Coleman Domingo was one of the potential actors that Marvel Studios was looking at to replace Jonathan Majors as Kang. This is obviously the other rumors that he was talking about. But from what he said, based off of what he seemingly knows, it sounds like Marvel Studios isn't going to recast anytime soon. Perhaps they are giving this a little bit of time. And some of the speculation is right now is that Disney, again, who owns Good Morning America, is giving him this opportunity to share his side of the story, to try to get the public kind of to feel sorry for him and maybe even a little bit on his side. That way, if they do decide to recast him as Kang the Conqueror at any point in time, they won't get that much backlash for it. And in fact, maybe even some people will welcome him being recast as Kang the Conqueror. Now, having said that, it probably will only happen if he appeals and ends up being found not guilty. If he doesn't appeal and everything kind of stays as is, Marvel Studios most likely won't rehire him. But again, a lot of people are really pointing out the irony of essentially Disney firing him, but then allowing him to tell his side of the story. And it is certainly interesting, and I am very curious to see what is going to be said and what is going to come to light in this interview that is going to happen tomorrow. I'll definitely be covering it. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on that video. And of course, we're doing our monthly giveaway for a chance to win Xbox Series X, a PS5, Marvel Legends items, or some DC items. All you got to do is subscribe and leave a comment down below. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.